And now we turn to Ryan Keith, founder of Forgotten Voices in Dillsburg, Pennsylvania, which does innovation orphan care in Africa. He's also here with us tonight, and he is going to take a few minutes now to share about the exciting partnership that Someone to Tell It To and Forgotten Voices has begun here in the Mid-State and in Africa. This new collaboration will enhance the work and ministry of both organizations and expand their effectiveness for those they are called to serve. Ryan Keith.
Hey everybody, good evening. It is good to be with you. Thanks so much, Terry, for sharing your story. And one of the things that strikes me first about what Terry has shared is that at a time, one of the things I've learned from Michael and Tom is at a time where we're all more connected than ever. We're lonelier than ever. You know, our world is getting smaller. I have friends in every continent of the world, but yet sometimes at the end of a long day, when I tuck my 3 young children in tonight and think about the day, I'm overwhelmed by, wow, who do I call now? We are more connected than ever, yet lonelier than ever in a way. And I think Terry's story illustrates our need to not assume that everyone has someone to tell their stories to. Tonight we have such a unique opportunity. We have such a unique opportunity to embrace being change makers. That at a time where we are lonelier than ever, even though we're connected than ever, it doesn't need to be that way. Loneliness is not one of those problems that has no earthly solutions. We can be someone to tell it to. And I'm so excited that Michael and Tom's simple idea is beginning to have ripples not just here in central Pennsylvania, but in the far corners and the forgotten places of our world. About 12 years ago, I was sitting under the tree of in a village in rural Zimbabwe. I was a 24-year-old kid from the suburbs of Boston. I knew nothing about what I was seeing. I had been asked by my pastor in Mechanicsburg, Pennsylvania, to not go to Harvard and instead go to Zimbabwe with our church to help us figure out what to do about the orphan crisis. As a 24-year-old kid, you're never as smart as you are as when you're in your early 20s, is what I've learned, especially now that I have kids. And so with ambition in my heart and a desire to see the world, I flew to Africa, and there I was holding the hand of a dying woman. And if you don't know anything about AIDS, in the final stages of AIDS, there is this you don't actually die of AIDS, you die of suffocation, right? And the bacteria and the infection gets in you, and you actually lose your ability to speak. So here I was, a white kid from the suburbs of Boston, holding this woman's hand, watching this dying woman watch her kids watch her die. And I returned to my church in Mechanicsburg, my upper middle class church in Mechanicsburg, and they said, "What are we going to do, Ryan?" And probably like most of you, as I look at your stunned faces, is I said on that stage, "I have no idea." And money poured in because people were intrigued by my honesty and intrigued by my desire to give up grad school and go to Zimbabwe over and over again. And every time I went, I kept hearing and returning with the same things. I keep meeting all these dying women and all these pastors sitting bedside next to dying woman after dying woman. And the local churches there are daily, unrelentlessly pouring out themselves and being a listening ear to the people in their community. And it was not for me to fix. It was not for me to restore. It was me simply to tell the stories that I had heard. And watch people like you and me, so far away from those places, begin to understand how we can be part of redeeming and restoring the lives of children who have lost their parents. It wasn't for us to fix. It was for us to listen to local pastors in Africa. So you can imagine over the last 10 years as I've been doing this and traveling the country and traveling the world telling this story about the church in Africa who's faithfully serving children who have lost their parents and loving them as if they were their own kids. I've been telling that stories, and over 10 years we now are reaching 5,500 kids, and we have staff all over 3 countries in Africa. And the burden on my life became so heavy that I actually began to think that I had nothing else to give. Because most of the kids we serve and the families we serve never know about me. They only know about their church. So there's people I've known for a long time who say, "How come you did nothing?" Because they only know about their church. They don't know about me. And a couple years ago, accidentally, I was at a fundraising dinner for this group that I did not know what it did, someone to tell it to. One of our donors and close friends of mine said, hey, you got to come with me to this thing. I got an extra ticket. Someone can't come. Can your wife and you come? And I was, sure. I Googled what they were doing on my way to the dinner. I was trying to explain it to my wife. And so there I was sitting, and I was listening to these two young guys. They seem younger then than they do now. That's what happens when you listen to people tell their stories. But, you know, these guys who were young in their hearts and just had this generous love for people, as they talked about what they did, even though they were doing it in Pennsylvania, it connected so instantly to what I was doing in Africa, sitting next to people. I did not need to know the answers to their stories. I just needed to be someone they could tell it to. And so it struck me about them as it rang true in my heart, like my heart leapt listening to their desires to just be someone to tell it to. Just be someone to tell it to at a time in our culture where we're more connected than ever, we're lonelier than ever. There are people that they tell me stories about who are in their homes and they haven't talked to anyone in years. Or people on their deathbeds in hospitals who have a secret they need to tell and they can't die at peace until it is told. Or a mother whose son has committed one of the worst crimes in America's history and just needs someone to tell it to. Whether you are in Africa in some remote village in Zimbabwe or you are here in central Pennsylvania, we all need someone to tell it to. And what struck me about Michael and Tom is that their heart crossed cultures, crossed boundaries, crossed economic and socioeconomic divides that make our elections seem like riddles that are impossible to solve. Our country is more chaotic than ever. But they were someone that I could tell it to. And so over the last year, we've been dreaming together, and I'll end with this. Over the last year, we've been dreaming together with someone to tell it to about how their compassionate listening and compassionate presence could play a role in offering a listening ear to our staff. Our staff in Africa who daily are getting, the staff we work with bury 6 to 10 people a month. A month. And about 12 to 15 people are knocking on their doors every single day with a crisis that would make you quiver every day without end. So someone to tell it to is not only going to provide counseling services to our staff, who need a listening ear besides me because I'm their boss. Even though I'm their friend, I'm their boss, right? So someone they can tell it to. And then Michael and Tom and their team are going to be working with us to try to figure out how we can scale that response. How can we equip our staff to then equip churches, who can then equip volunteers, and equip people in their communities as they go house to house, village to village, tree to tree, hut to hut, and be someone to tell it to. Because whether you're in Zimbabwe or you're here, we all need that. So I'm really excited about not just doing this for Forgotten Voices, but I deeply believe that what they are onto is not just going to change lives here in Zimbabwe and in Zambia and Malawi where we work. This model that we're going to be developing together is something I am so excited to share with my friends who are doing similar work. Because most people who do work like me, and I imagine most people who live where you live, are pretending far more than you're being real. And your neighbors, it's far easier to send money and love a kid in Africa than it is to ask your neighbor with sincerity and patience, how you doing? And I believe that what they're doing is a model that's not just going to help Forgotten Voices do better work, but it's a model that's going to unlock the generosity of our God in every person that we take the time to listen to. So tonight, I hope that we don't just listen to nice speeches that Terry and our other speakers are going to offer tonight and have a lot of fun auctioning, bidding on things that are worthy of our attention and our resources. But I hope tonight you look at this opportunity as a window in time that we have a choice, that there are many challenges in our world that have no earthly solutions. Loneliness should not be one of them. Michael and Tom and the work that they're doing provide all of us a way to be someone to tell it to. And I pray that tonight we seize that opportunity to help launch and catalyze an idea that is needed not just here but around the world. So I'm so privileged to be here tonight, and I'm so excited to see that they are just getting started. So thanks for listening to me. God bless you.
All right,